Okay, good morning. We have Coach Snyder, our special teams coach, and we have Damon Johnson, our long snapper, and hope to have soon Parker Lewis with us also. So, Coach, if we could ask you to make some opening comments, and then we'll take some questions.
Sure can. I'll tell you, getting out and having a spring ball has been wonderful compared to last year where we didn't have anything. So, I think overall we've it's been a really good spring. We've been able to get just about every player indoctrinated into each unit. So that's been really good. We've been able to get a lot of good drill work in, execution, and then some live team reps, and get an idea of where guys are going to probably fit up here in the fall. So it's been a really good spring. We are still doing meetings through the Zoom. And so that's been a little bit difficult as well. I can't wait till we get that opened up and I can get in front of these guys in the meeting room. But I feel pretty good about where we're at. I think we're making really good progress with Damon and Parker, Ben, Alex Stadhouse, who I thought did a nice job in the spring game. It's coming along really well. I feel really good about the specialist group. Will Rose also too is a backup punter. He's had some good days where he's hitting the ball pretty well. So as a group overall, I think we're making progress, developing some depth at each unit across the board and with the specialists. So looking forward to getting into good work this summer. I think all these guys are motivated. So a good summer's work in, and then get back in the fall and get camp started up and get going again.
Okay, thank you, Coach. As I said, we'll take questions now from the media for Coach Snyder or for Damon Johnson or Parker Lewis, who has joined us also. So we'll start with Ryan Karchi.
Hey, Sean, I know obviously you guys had a lot of early enrollees during spring. I can imagine, it helps to get those guys doing special teams early on, but it seems like towards the end of spring, you've also had quite a few injuries. I guess I'm just wondering, how has that worked in terms of, trying to keep that, the same group of guys, or at least teaching a lot of these guys special teams when, you have a lot of extra freshmen, but you're also dealing with some injuries?
In the spring, it works out pretty good to be able to move a lot of guys around, and that's what the goal was this year. Last year, not having spring ball and being able to get everybody kind of into the mix of what we're doing. So this spring and in the fall, it was kind of trying to have continuity and consistency with what we're doing. And that's really where it's really important, is in the fall to kind of get, once you get your two deep, that's what you're going to roll with and try to stay with that. In the spring, it works out so you can roll guys through and they all get a little chance to, you're not going to be polished for a game day through spring, but at the end of the day, it's a matter of getting what we're doing, the schemes we're doing, the fundamentals that we're doing, get all those guys so they understand it. And then so really as we build each year, it's not recreating the wheel all the time. And so that's kind of where we've been right now is, we get in the spring. Last year we get shut down. In the fall, we're creating the wheel, we're creating everything that we're doing. And so, it was a mad dash for 4 weeks to try to get ready for that first game. And then it was just trying to sustain and build, a little bit each week as we're going through while we're prepping for opponents. And now the big thing is let's get all these guys through as many positions as they can so they get a grasp of it, and then get a good idea of who can naturally pick it up and who's going to need more reps and more film and all that kind of stuff. And then now we roll into fall, and once we start up in camp, right now we'll have a really good idea of what it's going to look like. And especially with those young guys, which ones, you can really get going and get on the field, and as well as the returning guys who've done it and repped it where they're going to be at. So, it's really it's starting to paint the picture. It's getting the canvas out, throwing some color around on it, see where we're at, and then, put the picture together in the fall.
Do you feel like it will help you guys that you had like this large group of early enrollees that could kind of get that experience?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's, to me, the best time in the world for a young man to get into college is in January. You know, that mid-year you get in, you go through the out-of-season workout, you get around your teammates, you start to get brought into the family, into the team. You get comfortable, and then you can really open up when you get into spring ball and start seeing what they can do. So, you know, it just catapults them to an opportunity to play in the fall. It makes it really doable.
Okay, we'll go to Mark Culkin.
Good morning, guys. Hey, this question is for Parker and Coach, and Damon, you can chime in as well. I understand you guys are part of the WHOOP program, this band that, you know, kind of watches your stats, your body performance stats. And Parker, I know that you eat up to like 6,000 calories a day, or you burn that much. Can you talk about this program and you know, how you're working out? And, you know, you're kind of like one of the last man standing during your workout sessions.
So USC partnered with Whoop, which measures your heart rate. It measures your sleep performance, how many calories you burn, stuff like that. So, like for instance, like some of our workouts, I'm not kidding you, we have burned in 2 hours 1,600 calories, which is just ridiculous. So it's really good to see like our like body stats and our different things like that. So it's good to know like how many calories we're burning. So how many calories we need to like replenish to like keep weight. And, you know, it gives us good feedback on our sleep performance, on our strain for recovery and all that. So yeah, overall, it's definitely helped, you know, this off season with our performance stuff in the gym and stuff like that.
Were you chosen as one of the few that to do this? Because I mean, 6,000 calories a day is a lot. I mean, for anybody, let alone a kicker.
Right.
How does that happen? I mean, like I said, I've heard stories of during your workouts that you're like literally the last man standing. Who are some of the bigger guys that, you know, might be stronger than you?
Yeah, we train with during the off season, during the first 8 weeks, we trained with the defensive line. It was split into two groups, but yeah, I was on Whoop in high school. I've always loved, I've always been like a big nutrition guy. I've always loved the weight room. So I think that definitely, you know, is a correlation to what I've done at USC. But yeah, overall, I've always just been somebody who's loved the gym, loved to work out, and just loved the whole process with all that.
And Coach, for Damon Johnson, because, you know, he's always the least known player on the team, only because he's perfect. How do you work with somebody like that, getting him ready for the NFL, if that's his goal?
Yeah, you know, really the thing is Damon's so well polished that there's not a whole lot of stuff to really work with. You know, we've been, you know, the big thing, which is a little adjustment coming in, is in punt protection. We will block a little bit in that, and so that's one of the things that for the NFL, Damon will have to be able to do with the way they scheme it. And so, you know, that's probably the one addition that's added to it to help him out as far as getting in the NFL and getting settled in there, is just the protection and blocking. So, but you're right. I mean, he's perfect. He snaps the ball great every time and never have to worry about him. So it's a nice thing when you have a punter, a kicker, and a snapper, because really kickers get recognition for scoring points. But the punter and snapper, those guys basically, we are on the field when everything's gone bad. So if they remember you, it's a good thing that they remember you in a good light of hey, we don't have to worry about this guy. But yeah, it's refreshing with with all three. That, you know, it's just they do a great job.
Okay, Adam Grossbart.
Sean, we've seen you guys work some multiple guys back in the for kickoff and punt return. Just wondering how you're seeing that and what the different guys bring to that position.
Yeah, so the way that's set up with our kickoff return and punt return is with both guys back there. What I'm looking for is basically a dual threat back there. So typically most people are going to have an off returner that is primarily a blocker. And that's important. I got to have a guy that does a great job back there doing that. But in the perfect world, I got two guys back there that both of them are lethal returners. And so that's really the end goal of what we're trying to get to. We do have a combination mix of guys that are probably a little bit stronger blockers than they are returners, and a mixture with the guys that both return the ball really well. So it's a lot of it's going to boil down to the guys that pick it up and are really good with the timing of what we're trying to do. And so Gary's got some experience at it. He's done a nice job. Did a good job, especially towards the end of the season, started picking up stuff on kickoff return. Michael Jackson has done a really good job. He's got good hands, sees it well. It's really smooth. KD Nixon is same thing, really smooth and done a really nice job. And in the off returner position, we've been using Stephen Carr and Brandon Campbell and Keontae. And those guys are fitting up and doing a nice job in there as well. So really, as we get in, we're going to have some new guys coming in, Sierra and Prophet, probably a couple other guys that will mix back there in the fall and see where they fit in and how fluid they are, and then piece it together. But right now, we're just kind of shuffling around and see who works well with each other and try to get a good picture for that.
Do you feel like you mentioned Gary just kind of picking it up as the season went on. Do you feel like that was more a product of just not having that normal off season? So it took a little time for the unit to kind of like figure out exactly what it was you wanted. And if that's the case, just what do you feel like they're going to get out of this spring season? They got out of this spring season.
Oh, absolutely. The timing of, with the punt return and the kickoff return, and especially the kickoff return, there's a lot of timing elements in there that we kind of piece together. And so not having that last year going into the fall, that's the one unit, the kickoff return, the one unit that does take a little bit longer, to get in sync. And when you have those guys in the back end with their blocking and what they're doing and how we're reading everything, if the guys get it down quick, they're great, then they get better and better because you're going to get a different look. Kickoff teams are going to come down and some guys are going to do something they hadn't done before. You're going to have different looks teams are going to do to mix it up to try to get guys off. But at the end of the day, the way the return's set up, it's built for all that stuff, but it needs experience. And that's the thing right now. This spring has really been tremendous for our kickoff return. Our guys in the back end have really done a great job. I think the timing is starting to fit up really well. They're starting to see things more clearly. The communication's key and key for the off returner are what I call the V, our wings and our Q. And then for the returners where he's fitting and how he's getting things set up. So, it's been a really productive spring with that. And that'll build into obviously the fall. And I think it'll be, we'll start off, I think, where we left off, if not a little bit better.
Okay, RJ.
Hey, Coach. Clay has been using the phrase relentless effort as kind of a mantra or kind of just something for you guys to grab onto. When you hear that phrase, who are the guys on your units that you think of based on what you've seen this spring?
Oh, guy, there's a bunch of them. It's hard to really pinpoint because the one thing I've been blessed with walking into this here is that, these guys they've bought in. They want to win. They give great effort all the time. Very seldom. There's probably a few guys that don't give the great effort, that I could call out, but for the most part across the board, they get after it. A guy that's kind of was a strong staple, a couple of them on special teams in the fall, and there's been the same thing here is Tuasivi has been really good on there. Micah Kroom, Ray Scott's really stepped up and done really well. John Jackson always gives a great effort. Drake London, there's Quincy, Yanti. there's been a lot of those guys that they step up and get after it. And I'm just blessed that they bought in the way they have. I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's a fun group to coach. And when we get into season, it'll just step up even more. I mean, it was a good spring.
And then relative to previous springs, how much emphasis has there been on special teams?
Well, I can't speak for anything previously that they've done here, but for myself, it's very similar. I mean, Coach Helton's been great. We've set it up. It's very similar to the way we did it at Kansas State. And so time-wise, there's been what I need. I mean, so it's been a good emphasis on it. It's not a massive amount of time, but we're able to get all the work in we need and the video we need. Probably the biggest thing, if I could have anything different, it would be able to meet with them in person. And that's the biggest thing right now, because between a Zoom meeting and an in-person meeting, I mean, it's a completely different thing. And so, outside of that, the time commitment's been really good. And like I said, Coach Helton, if I went into him today and said, hey, I need an extra 5 minutes today, he'll figure it out and get it worked in.
Thank you.
Okay, Eric McKinney.
Sean, with the shortened prep time last year, what were some areas that you were pleased with in terms of performance during the season? And then the flip side of that, I know you mentioned kick return, but some areas where you'd maybe expect some improvement this season.
Yeah, so I felt like with kickoff, I thought we did kickoff was really good. Obviously, it helps when you're getting a lot of touchbacks, and Parker did a nice job there. But when we did have one in play, I thought the guys did a great job of covering down. I put a strong emphasis on getting. We want to make big plays on kickoff, and we want to make big plays inside the 20-yard line. And so, and we did that. I mean, we had some really good plays. It really fired up the team. And so that I felt was really good. Punt, we punted the daylights out of the ball. We had a couple get back, so a couple returns on us that I was a little frustrated with. And those were simple things. Those were just lack of experience of closing in on the ball where we ran into. We had guys there and just didn't trigger on it. But that'll be fixed and be a lot better this year. Our kickoff return, I felt like we showed early on things showed up exactly what you wanted them to look like. We just didn't know how to get the movement and the finish that we needed to in those early games. The film was really good to look at. It was really good coachable film. The production wasn't what we wanted. Obviously, as the season went on, we started getting a little bit better, and they started figuring out, the return stuff, what we're trying to do, and how to read it, read opponents' kickoffs. And so, obviously, the UCLA one was a big one that jumped back out of there. We were real close on one against Oregon of getting squeaked out. So, I feel like, and again, that one takes some time, and I felt like those guys really started picking that up. Punt return, we didn't really get, opportunities were pretty rough on that. We'll get better at that. The biggest thing there was, running with guys down the field to the returner. That's probably my biggest pet peeve. We just run with a guy and didn't get any leverage and didn't get him any movement on that. But the thing is, we worked on that a lot this spring, and I think we'll be better at that as we go. But the punt return obviously is the one that really needs to improve an awful lot on. Field position wise, it held its own. We were trying to be a little disruptive with punters, and so get them off their game a little bit with rushes and stuff like that. But I think we've got improvement in every area that we need. But I think we're moving in the right direction. So we just keep plugging along and see what happens.
When you're looking at coverage guys and return blockers, not so much the specialists, what goes into that for you? What kind of, I guess, personality traits are you looking for? And then is that all based on kind of the special teams work you're doing, or do you watch a little bit of the kind of the individual stuff and position stuff and see how they work in kind of their own position specific drills too?
Oh no, I watch everything. What I'm looking for is guys that just play fast. And part of that playing fast is how they process the game. And so, the guys that process the game really fast play fast, and the guys that have to overthink or try to have to process a lot of stuff just play slower. And so, if you looked at towards the end of the season, I mean, we had a lot of guys playing at a pretty high level that aren't in the two deep. And and to me, I'm across the board with players. And so whether it's a starter, whether it's second string or third string, it doesn't matter to me. I want guys out there that are, as Coach Helton says, relentless effort, that they play. They're going to go fast. They understand what they're supposed to do. And part of that comes along with a little bit of film study of them on their own, and making sure that they're up to speed on what we're doing. But yeah, to me, it's about the guy that can trigger on the ball, that is able to process the game, because it's, again, you're playing from sideline to sideline. You're not in a box. And so you got to have good vision. You got to be able to process the game fast, and you got to be able to play fast. And so that's really what I look for.
Damon, in typical snapper fashion, nobody's asked you a question yet. You play a position that people only talk to you when something goes wrong. How do you deal with that, and where do you find your satisfaction?
Sorry. I think for me, like, the biggest thing is operation with Ben and punt, and then with Parker and field goals. With my technique, I feel like I've kind of knocked it down to where, I know what to work on with myself, and I just been able to perfect that with myself. Biggest thing is just making sure that what I do helps the whole team out. So if I can get my operation down with Ben, so we don't have a block punt, or just have a faster op time for a field goal, I think that's been two things that I've worked on the most this spring. And then along with kind of blocking with punt protection for the next level. I've kind of been two things I've worked on, but no, I know that, snappers, we just kind of, if you do your job, you're not going to get talked about too much, and I'm good with that. And that's just kind of how I roll. So.
And what played into coming back for your fifth year snapping?
I mean, one thing was just there's a couple awards out there that I was up for. Came a little short on those. Those kind of mean a lot to me. And I knew that was some of my goals that I was almost there, but I want to be able to come back and get that. I want to finish up my master's as well. And then also just have another year with Coach Snyder was a huge impact on me. And I think this special teams unit has a chance to be really special this year. And I want to be a part of that and finish what I started.
Okay, thank you. We'll go to Mark Culkin.
Coach, outside of those unique situations, onside kicks, when you have two kickers, like a Parker or an Alex, who can put it in the back of the end zone, why would there be times where you might not want them kicking it for a touchback and, maybe saving some of the contact that the NCAA is trying to push back on as far as concussions and so forth?
Well, at the, it's really kind of a game by game situation. I mean, there's times where cover unit wise, if we're covering really well, if you pin someone down inside the 15-yard line, 10-yard line, or 20-yard line, whatever it is, I mean, those are big plays, and there's a momentum shift that can happen during that. So, there's times where that's really, really good to do. And you mentioned concussions. I mean, that's one of the things that, that always comes up in kickoff return stuff. But I'm pretty certain. I mean, I can't. I've known we've had in probably the past 10 years of doing this. We've had maybe one or two concussions on kickoff return. So I mean, especially when they took the head out of the game. I mean, that has really kind of gone away. And what it used to be, back in the day when I was playing, I mean, yeah, there were guys falling off the field with concussions. I mean, every game with all the head hits and all that kind of stuff. But there hasn't been a whole lot of concussions on those units. And matter of fact, even just the injuries alone, there hasn't been very many that I've experienced my personal self. Now, I can't say that for anybody else, but my personal experience. But a lot of the things that we're doing, it's not a matter of running down and just trying to run bash somebody's head. You know, I mean, most of what we're doing is trying to get around people and get ourselves in position to the ball carrier. And a lot of the stuff we're teaching too is about, you know, using face mask and using hands, and we're not running down and trying to get guys to barrel their head down at anybody. You know, so I think part of the technique that we use, and the, you know, the NC2A taking the head out of the game, I think that's changed that dramatically of what's taken place. But I do think there's great, I mean, when you get I mean, if you look at the Washington State game, when we ran down there and pinned that one on the 10-yard line, I mean, the entire sideline was on the field. And I mean, those are big things. And that's the one thing in special teams that I like is the impact you can make with a big kickoff return, a big punt return, you know, whether it's a big play on punt, you know, a long field goal, you know, whatever it is, but you change the, I mean, you change the environment with those big plays and in a positive way. And it's demoralizing for the opponent. I mean, it would be for us if we got one returned against us. I mean, it knocks you off your feet. But at the end of the day, those, you know, the big plays and the risk for them are worth it.
Okay, Coach, and Damon and Parker, we've got to let you go now. It's Coach has to get off to a meeting. So thank you very, very much for joining us this morning. To the media, a reminder that our last Zoom session of the spring will be tomorrow morning, Friday, 8 a.m. with Coach Helton. And tomorrow's practice Friday will start at 3:25. We're actually not having an earlier portion, so we'll let you into the viewing at 3:25 tomorrow. So with that, everybody have a great day. And again, thanks for
Guys, thank you all. Appreciate you.